Folks, thanks for stopping by. In today's video, I thought we would do a deep dive into my Boss Katana Artist Mkii with the Tone Studio. Check out how I have things set up, and generally how I set up things on these modeling kind of things for different guitars and so forth, and what I have for effects on each of the channels and kind of how I use them. If you like this kind of content, I would really appreciate it if you could help me out by subscribing, liking, and ringing the notification bell. It really helps the channel grow and builds a really neat kind of sense of community here. So without further ado, let's jump into Tone Studio. Alright folks, here we are in my Tone Studio for my Katana. And you can kind of tell how I set stuff up. I do this for the most part on all modeling things. This particular amp has two banks of 4 presets each. And I will save for 2 different guitars, like a humbucking guitar and a single coil guitar. So these are the same patches, I just have them set up different to respond to the humbucker versus the single coil. So this is kind of how I set up modeling stuff. And then I have 4 presets that I can use for each one with varying degrees of distortion. And then on each one of them, I have effects that I can turn on and off with the GAFC foot switch. So oftentimes I'll use it as a pedal board. This is where we can kind of see where the effects are for each of these patches that I have. As they currently exist. You can see I kind of have the EQ pretty much straight up and down. There's nothing really strange about it. Some of the great features of this particular amp is this contour switch, which greatly changes the sound of the guitar. The cab resonance, which really changes the sound a lot as well. And once you, like I said, I'm going to set it and kind of forget it, guys. So once I kind of set that, I leave it alone. But that's kind of what's all that's kind of happening with it. On here we can switch through the various types of effects that are on each one of these channels that we have, and I'll run through those in a second for you. But we can hear how all this kind of stuff sounds. So here's the contour off. That definitely gives it more like a vintagey sound. I like this off. Sounds nice to me. And we can go through the various cab resonance. Vintage. I like the vintage. I kind of, don't like things too thin sounding or whatever, but I think that's a really cool sound. The other nice feature about this amp is it does have a foot switchable solo boost. By just holding down a button on the foot switch, you can actually have a boost set up for whatever you have this set up for each of your parts. Over here's the effects that I have set up for each one of them. You can see which one is active by the color that's filled in. So in this instance, I have some delay cooking over here, the analog delay. Let's listen to them and see if they sound different. I never switch these, by the way. They all sound pretty much the same to me, but I just kind of keep it on there. I always do kind of set, I don't do a tap tempo for my delays. I kind of set them somewhere between 400 and 430 milliseconds. and just leave them go. I virtually never do a tap tempo or any of that kind of stuff. I always have reverb on. I go through stints where I always have delay on, and other stints where I don't use delay so much, but as a general rule, I like it quite a bit. And then I'll come over here to the booster set, and you can see I have 3 different things set up on here. I have a tube screamer, which is kind of cool, and let's get into the booster thing here. And then you have each of the settings for each one of them. So the tube screamer, I like a lot. One thing you do fight with on all this stuff is the levels. You know, trying to get the levels right between them. Like, that seems really loud in my basement here, but on a gig, that is just right. So it's difficult to set those up sometimes because we perceive it different in our basement than it is actually on the gig. So if we set it so it sounds good, balanced, and at home, when we get to the gig, you can never hear the distortion. But I like this tube screamer a lot. It's a nice, clean kind of sound. I can back the volume down. Kind of cool. There's a couple good ones on here. The other one that I like a lot is the Blues Drive is kind of cool. I like that a lot, actually. I should have that one set as my default. But that has a nice beefy amount of drive. The warm over drive is nice too. I use that on my GX100 a lot. And on the GX100, this governor is really nice too. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. If I was just using just amp and pedal board mode where I was going to turn a distortion on, that'd be a great one to use because it has a ton of gain. Let's see if it cleans up at all. Yeah, but it's still crunchy, so that's kind of a cool sound. I like it. So let's go over to the first modulation effect settings that I use. So let me go back here and turn this off. And then we'll come over here, and I have, if we look at my effects, I have 3 effects set up over here. A chorus, a tremolo, and a rotary. So if we come over here, let me just run through them each for you first. So here's the rotary. I use this for kind of like organ stuff. That's kind of neat. That's usually where I keep that as a default. I have a little tremolo set up. Nice trim. Little chorus. A lot more than I do anymore. Generally, I just keep it on the rotary, and I don't really use a chorus too much anymore. So that's kind of how I have that set for what I do. And then if we go to our effects tab, we'll turn that off. And what I usually use for this is I keep this set to an octaver, and I'll use that for like this kind of stuff. Sounds sounds cool. You can put on a little bit of distortion with it and get a cool sound. Kind of a neat sound. I like it. But that's really how I use the katana, and it works really well for me. I've played a ton of gigs with this and had a lot of fun, and I've recorded a lot with it. I'm going to do another video so we can hear how the line out sounds. I'm just going to record direct for that. I was going to do that for this, and instead I just kind of stuck a mic in front of it so you guys could hear the speaker. But I'm going to do another video with the line out of it, maybe record a little track or something so we can check that out. But this is kind of, if it's helpful, a lot of times people have trouble with setting up like modeling kind of things that you have to do before a gig, because they're just trying to set it up for one guitar and they're not customizing it for each of the guitars that they use. And that's really the key that I've found to using this stuff live, is you kind of have to set it for the guitar that you're using, because there's going to be subtle tweaks. They're the same basic patches, but you'll have to change some of the settings slightly to get into different parts. Like if I click on that, that looks just about the same, right? I mean, there's a couple things that move, but not much. It's pretty much the same settings, just a little different tweakage for between my Strat and a humbucker guitar. So that's kind of how I work it. So hopefully you find this video helpful. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. That really helps me out a lot. I'd appreciate any of the help you can give me in that regards. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.